So this is the ninth episode of Angular 20 tutorial. So till now, like basic things are done. So like how do we create the project? What are components, component lifecycle event? How do we create the variable in TypeScript class, data binding, signal, control flow statement, attribute directive, and the routing. Now we are slowly moving to the important part, that is API integration, because whatever doesn't matter what type of your project is, there will not be a single project where we won't be using API call integration. So all the data, whatever the data you see, either you take it an example of e-commerce application or employee management or any type of application or your banking application, insurance application, all that data, whatever the data you see, that data comes from the database. So from Angular application, we cannot directly communicate with the database. So we need the mediator, that is API. So API is the mediator which gets us data from the database, and that data then we show it into our Angular application. Fine. So API integration basic, and in this episode mostly Get API I will be able to show because I need to explain all these things. Now you just search API, okay, and you just go to the images. You will find so many images which will explain you like what is API. Let's open the second one. Let's open it into a new tab. So see, consider this your Angular application. From Angular application, you will make the request to the API. Then API will go to the database, it will get the data, and it will again send it back to the API, send it back to your front end application. Means from Angular, you will request the data from the database with the help of API. Okay. So this is nothing but API. So when we talk about the API, now API again like .NET, Java, SharePoint, Python, so many different platforms are there, backend technologies, which we use to create the APIs. Fine. PHP, so many platforms are there, which will help you to create the API. Now, when we talk about the API, APIs are nothing but the URL. Okay. So it will be simple URL, which we hit. That is nothing but API to us. From Angular application, if we want to execute an API, we will hit the URL. Okay. Now there are various types of method: get, post, put, and the delete. So normally, again, one more is there patch, but patch we use for a different purpose. These are the mostly 80% time we use these four method only: get, post, put, delete. Now get, whenever you want to get the data from the URL. Post, whenever you want to create new record. Put, to update the existing record. Delete, to delete the existing record. Okay, so these are the various methods we have. Now, coming back to the Angular point, how do we integrate the APIs in our Angular? So those who are from the JavaScript background, you might be aware of the Fetch API. So in JavaScript, how we used to integrate the API? By using Fetch API, we used to integrate. So that also will work in Angular. But Angular has its own HTTP client library, which uses RxJS library to make async API call, asynchronous code. Okay. Again, we will talk about RxJS, but for now, just focus like we have a HTTP client library. Again, it is already included in Angular. You don't have to install it separately. It is already included in the Angular. Now, so in Angular, we will integrate the API by using HTTP client library. Now, from where you are going to get the API? That's the big question, right? So for a practice, till now, just for now, you will be using the normal or the sometimes mock API or some server. Again, so many mock APIs there, or sometimes real API also. Okay. Now, when you work on the project, API team is a separate team. They will provide you the API that they have created, and they will deploy onto some environment. Sometimes API will have a Swagger, or sometimes API team member will provide you the URL. Like if you want to get the employee list, this is the API you want to execute. If you want to get the list of product, this is the API you want to hit. So API team will provide you the URL of the API that you will integrate into your Angular application. Okay. Now, so let's say you want to learn the API integration. So what you will do now, while learning, you are not working on any project, but you want to practice, right? So there are so many mock API also which you can implement. Mock API means these are just APIs which are created for testing. So the most famous one is JSON placeholder. So what you need to do, you just need to search JSON placeholder. Okay, just go to this website. If you scroll down, they have provided some get APIs. So see, post, comment. If I click on the post, see, this is the URL. So the response of this URL is a JSON. See, and it's an array of object. See, array symbol and then object. First object, second object, third object, like that. This is one API. Then if you click on the comment, post, this is another API. All are GET API. Comments. So many APIs are there. So these are nothing but URL. So this is a API for user. Let's execute. Then second was, let's say, to do item. It has around 200 record. So now these are your mock API. Now in Angular application, we will integrate this API, and whatever the data you get, that you will store it into your Angular some variable, and then you will showcase in the HTML template. Fine. So today we are just going to focus on the Get API. Fine. Now, so I have created one more component, that is Get API. So ng generate component Get API. I have created the route, and this route I have added into the our navbar also. Fine. This is the initial work I have done, because already I have explained so many times, like how do you create component, after creation of component, how do you create the route. Okay, so that's part I will be skipping now. Let's save all. Yeah, it is already saved. If you go to the Get API, my Get API component is loading. Now, if in your Angular application you want to integrate the API, first thing you have to do is you have to go to the app config over here. And in this app config, you have to add one more injection, that is provide HTTP client, like a method. So whenever you want to do the API integration, first thing you have to do is you have to inject provide HTTP client method into your app config. This is the first thing you do. Okay, now I'm closing this. Then this is one time process. Okay, then let's go to your component. This is your .ts, this is your HTML. Let's open it side by side for now. Now in your component, you want to integrate the API. So we have already seen the lifecycle event. So, but before that, you need to create the instance of HTTP client service. Okay. So how do you do that? So HTTP is equal to inject. What you are going to inject? HTTP client service. This one. So see, import has been automatically added. So this is how you have created HTTP client service. Previously, we used to do this in the constructor. That is what we call dependency injection. Again, we are going to see that also. But for now, this is the new thing what we have got from Angular 16. Okay. So we have created instance of our HTTP service. Now let's create a method. Get users. This is a simple method. Now in this method, in this function, we are going to make an API call. So this dot HTTP dot, as I said, there are multiple methods. So we are going to make get API call. So get method is there. If you see what it needs, URL, again in the string format. So double quotes, we need the URL. So what was the URL for the user? This was the URL. So let's copy this and let's pass it over here. Okay. So this is not going to trigger your API call. This is just the half code. Once you do the subscribe, see, it is suggesting little bit things. What you need to use, subscribe. So round bracket result colon any, then arrow function like this. So this will trigger your API call, and whatever the data this API call is going to return, that you will get it over here. Whatever the variable name, either result or either result, whatever you name it over here. Whatever this API call is going to return, that you will catch it over here. Now this data you need to store into your variable. So let's create one more variable, user list colon any of array. I'm using any a lot because I have not explained class and interface. Okay. This is, I'm using any just for the time being. Now over here, this dot user list is equal to result. Whatever the API response, that you are going to get it over here. This you are storing into this variable. Okay. Now we have created function, but this function is not going to call automatically. So we need to implement lifecycle event. So how do we implement lifecycle event? ng on init we are going to implement. So implements on init you need to write. After that you write ng on init. So this function will call once your component get initialized. So in your component you will call this method. So once your component get initialized, ng on it will trigger. In ng on it, you are calling this function. So ultimately this function will get trigger. Let's add debugger everywhere. Here also, after subscribe also, and in ng on it also. Fine. Let's just save and check. Let's reload. So see, first debugger we have got in ng on it. Once I continue, it will go to the next function. See, execution goes over here. Then we are making the API call. Now, whatever the API call you are making now, that will be available in the network tab over here. You will file one entry once this line get executed. I'm doing continue. See, in the result, we got the response. See, 10 record. And if you check this, you have got one entry over here. Result status is 200. Now, whatever the result we got from this API that we got it over here, this we are storing into this variable. By default, this variable is empty. Now, whatever the result we got from the API that we are storing into this variable. See, now your user rest variable have all the 10 record. Fine. This is how you have done the API call. See that API call you can see out over here. Your URL, method, is it 200 or not? In preview and the response, you can see the response what it has got. Now, whatever this API call is returning that we have stored over here, let's show that into a table. Let's use row, column, let's say 6. Let's use a table and let's add a class to the table. Table hyphen. We have already seen that in the control flow statement, but again, I'm repeating th, then th, sorry, th. Let me just copy paste something. Okay. Now see how many data you are getting. So we are getting so many fields, but limited we will show. Let's say we want to show the name. Then we have got username, phone on website also. Let's show the website also. Username. Then second will be website, username, and we are receiving the email also. Only 4 field I'm showing. So this is your T head that will be static. Then we need T body. Inside T body, we are going to need a for loop. And then we have to iterate on the for loop. Fine. So our variable will be user list because in this variable, we are storing the API call data. Now here we need a tr and that must td. How many th we have? 4. So that many td we will need. Right. Now here we have to use the interpolation. Item dot. Now we have to check the response. What is the property name? Name. So you need to copy paste. Again, second thing, item dot. Second thing is website. So let's copy the website. Always copy paste the field name. Sometimes possible you make the spelling mistake and nothing will be visible in the browser. Then what was there? Username. Let's copy item dot username and the last one is email ID. Item dot email. The property name is email. Fine. Let's copy and save it over here. Let's save and check. Now our table should be visible. Yes. So see, whatever the data you get from the API that you have stored into your variable and that variable you are using in the HTML to iterate. So in the table, you can see the data is available. Fine. Just like that, let's make one more API call. This is another API call, which is getting around 200 records are there to do. Now we have to create one more API call function. Get to do items. Again, API call this dot http dot get. Again, get method is there. Dot get. You need the URL. Let's copy the URL. So this is my URL. This URL we have to put it over here. Then again, subscribe logic. Response. Okay. Now, just like we have stored the data into user list, to store the to-do item, you need one more variable. So to-do list. Again, any of array. And whatever the data you get that you will store over here, to-do list is equal to response like this. But here it is giving error because we didn't specify the data type. So any. Okay. Now on the page load, we need to call this function also. So after this, you will call second function also. So on the page load, now you will have two API call. First to get the user and second to get the to-do item. And this to-do item we will show into the ULLI in the second column. Call 6 because we have 200 record around. So why it is not coming? Yeah. Here we are not going to create the table, just ULLI we will show you. We just want to see the data is coming or not. L at the rate for loop, and now this for loop will be on the to-do list, right? Wherever you have stored the data, that variable you will use li, and now in li what we want to show item dot. Let's see the properties what we are getting. Let's say title. Okay, let's save and check now. So now on the page load, you will see two API call in your network tab. See user and the to do. In to do we have around 200 record. So see in ULLI. Got it? So we have done two API integration. Okay. So this is nothing but your get API integration. Again, as I was saying, like these are your mock API. These are the APIs which we have built, which there are just for the testing. Now there comes the real API. So real API I have created. I know that little bit .NET, so I have created some APIs and that I have hosted it also on the live URL. So you can type freeprojectapi.com. This is where I have hosted all the APIs. You can go to the project API, and here you can see so many APIs are there for the different project. Bus booking, college project, e-commerce app, employee onboarding, goal tracker, so many different projects. Again, so many will be coming. Okay. Now let's say bus booking, and here we have user API. So you just expand it, click on the test endpoint. So this is your URL, and bottom you can see the data. Okay, these are the APIs, real API. These are not mock API. These are the real API which I have created and hosted on this domain. So let's try to integrate this also. And now here, instead of 6, now let's make it 4. 4. Now one more API call one to one. So let's say get all bus booking users. Again, function this dot http dot get your URL. This is my URL. Again, subscribe thing, but we need one more variable, bus users colon any of array. Fine. Now this function we need to call on the page load also. Now on the page on this component load, you will have 3 API call. Okay. Now dot subscribe round bracket result. See, everywhere I'm using different variable. Here result, here response. It's your name, whatever you think of. Okay. Just make it relative. Like you are getting user and here should not have employee, right? Just make a relative property name. This dot bus user. Now, whatever the data you are going to get from that user, you want to store into bus user instead of bus user, na bus user list. This is the right variable name. Your variable name should be descriptive, right? Again, one more thing, like if you are new, please do like and subscribe my channel. There is a WhatsApp group link. You can join that also. I have around 7,000 people already joined who are working. We take so many live sessions where we discuss, apart from the normal topic, we discuss so many project related scenarios, intro question, and so many things. So just to get notification of those, you can join the WhatsApp link and you can directly connect with me also. Now, whatever the data you get, that you will store it over here. Now, whatever the bus user list you got that you want to show it also. Again, call for. Now here again little bit table I will use. So now table I'm just copy pasting so that I can do it quickly. Now let's see what data you are getting. See, fields are different. Username, email ID, and full name and the role we will show. Let's say user ID we will show. User name. Role I will show. Let's see full name we are getting. So full name we will show. Okay. Now, whatever the data we are getting, we are storing into bus user list. So we will iterate on that. Now, as I said, always try to copy paste from here. User ID, see, because user ID is I is capital over here. Then we got username, N is also capital. Then we have got role. Then we have got full name. Let's copy. Let's save. Something is breaking. Let's see what is breaking. In console, we should be getting one error. So see, we are getting error like new collection iterator is not a function. Let's check the API called data. Let's reload. Now, if you see, the response of this user API is directly array. Response of this to do also is directly array. But the response of this API, it is object. And in the data, you get the array, right? So what we did, the response of this API is object. And inside the object in data property, you get the array. So here, instead of assigning the result, you need result.data. Because in the result, you get the array object. From that object in data property, you have the array. So that we need to store. Now it will work fine. See, now you got the data. Okay. So I think this has around some records so that are visible over here. This is your get API called integration. Now, because we didn't add the responsive class, that's why it is breaking. Let's add table responsive. Let's add this class over here also and over here also. So our UI should not break. Okay. Understood? So now all the three tables are properly visible. Okay. So this is what get API. Whatever the data you get that you will show it in the table, you got the array. Now that array you can use it anywhere, either in table, card, drop down option, anything, right? I have shown the data into the table, but you can integrate that data in anywhere, whatever the thing we have seen in the for loop, right? Control plus statement, we have created array and that we integrated similar to that. Okay. So I hope whatever I thought of explaining, everything is clear. So everything, all the points are covered, I think. Yeah. So this is the end of this episode. Again, I'm saying like if you're new, please do like and subscribe and help me to grow my channel. That's it. Thank you guys.